Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of EETV, where I strive to bring you everything in entertainment, and we will be reviewing episode 9 of Trigun Stampede. Episode 9 is entitled Millions Knives, after the antagonist of the series. So let's begin. Okay, the first scene takes place in a large golden room containing a piano, and we see none other than Millions Knives playing the piano. Now, while he's playing the piano, it's a young Knives, and we have a time skip from when we see younger Knives into even younger Knives when they're on the seed ship, and then he's soon joined by Vash, and Vash scoots him over and they started playing together. Now, when I saw that scene, was reminded of how much they got along and how they used to be in sync. That's what I took from that scene, that they were in sync at one point. And then when the scene transitions and you just see Knives there playing by himself, it seemed that he's only in sync with that plan from now on, and Vash is doing his own thing. Now, when we're seeing that, we see younger Knives, not Knives in the present, but fast forward from the seed ship, younger Knives is in the piano room playing, and he's interrupted by someone, the doctor. Now, I saw the man with the glasses, and I speculated that it was William, and it is confirmed that it is William by later on in the episode, and we'll get to how that happened. Now, they're interrupted. William first says that he has what Knives was asking for, and what was he going to do with it. But then they're interrupted by an alarm, and they leave the room and they go into the plant room where all the plants are at, and both men enter there, and the men tell Knives that the plants are at their production limit, and two other men enter the room at the same time, and the plants were pushed to their limit, and the reason why they were pushed to their limit is to make room for reconstruction. But Knives wants the plants healed, but the doctor, William, says it's too late for that. We see that the plants enter what they refer to as a last run, when the production limit is reached for the plant, and then they go out of control and they enter a burnout state and they die. And this is shown in a very horrific way, like the surrounding area of the plant turns completely crimson. It goes from red to completely crimson, and then the plants just die. Knives is upset about this, and he kills the men responsible for killing the plants. And the first clue that that man that he was with is William is because he's asking forgiveness, forgive us humans for what we have done to these plants. And that reminded me back to all the way back, and I believe it's episode 6, when William was asking Wolfwood for forgiveness for experimenting on him. So that was the clue right there, that was William, and it's confirmed at the end of the episode that was William. Knives, Vash shows up, and then Knives tells Vash that he switched all the navigation data of the ships so that the humans would die and the plants would live. So he sabotaged the ships, as we very well know, but he didn't sabotage the plant ships, and that's why they were able to land safely, because he wanted to create a utopia. Knives then murders the reinforcements that shows up, and then he picks up a very familiar gun, and it turns out that is the same weapon. Of course, it's been upgraded over the time and, of course, repaired over 150 years, but it's the same weapon that Vash has been using since his first encounter with Knives all those years ago when he first left the ship. Ship 3, I was so to say. So after Knives reinforces kills all the reinforcements in Wolverine fashion and picks up the gun, Lueda arrives, and Knives wants to tell Vash to kill her. He tells Vash to kill her. Vash fights back but he is knocked out and unconscious, and Knives begins to strangle Lueda. Then Vash wakes up just in time and unknowingly activates his gate with his left arm. Now it looks like it's a glowing black purplish orb, and Knives tell me he's a fool for activating that, and it looks like it turns out to be a miniature black hole, and everything is being sucked inside. In order for him to stop Vash from further using that gate, Knives cuts his arm off, his left arm off, and then the gate dissipates. And when the gate dissipates, you can see his left arm being sucked into that small black hole. Vash still defends Lueda, and Knives vows to build a world of plants, and he said it's only going to take about a century or so. That scene was very powerful, because if you saw the look on Knives' face when he looked sad at first, and then he went through anger, and then he just went into pure just anger after literally cutting himself off from his brother from that brief moment. But you can tell he was feeling anguish, but he had to do it because he wanted to proceed with his plan, because his hatred for the humans is that strong that he's willing to cut off his brother, just like he cut off his Vash's arm with no problem. Knives leaves with the young William, and we cut to the present. And I was wrong about it in my last video. When we saw Vash wake up with the all black suit and he has the prosthetic arm, that was from the present, like when the series is taking place now, not the past. So we cut to the present, and we see the older Vash being welcomed by Lueda and Brad. And Brad was the one, we learned that Brad was the one who made Vash's prosthetic arm. And he's fixing Vash's arm, and Lueda and Brad have known Vash for 150 years, and their life is extended by cold sleep. This is what they tell Wolfwood, Roberto, and Marrow, because they were shocked. Like 150 years, they take cold sleep and they don't age while they're in cold sleep. And we also find out that the other crewmates that are still on the ship are still in cold sleep, since surviving on the planet of no man's land is very difficult. They have opted to keep the rest of the crew asleep and only wake them up every once in a while so they don't drain all the resources. Now, given that, Lueda shows everyone a garden on the ship. Not everyone, just Roberto and Marrow. She states that if they can spread the flora, the plant life around the planet of no man's land, then they wouldn't have to rely on the plants as much, and they won't be harming the plants. Because now we find out, if you haven't read the manga, you find out when human beings use the plants, they could very easily kill them, like we saw in the previous scene. But that's why Vash is there, because he can help heal them. So if they can spread the flora around like they did and make no man's land more Earth-like, and being able to sustain more flora, then humans will not have to solely rely on the plants and justifying their survival. So using the plants in such a way harms the plants if they don't do it in a controlled manner. And since the plants are also living beings, it's hard for them to justify killing the plants and then making new ones, killing life to sustain life. So they want to be able to do this without having to do so. That's the ultimate goal. They want to be able to live without the plants, without having to rely on them and diminish their life to extend human beings' life. Now, then we hear there wasn't a commotion. Lueda comes back, and she said they were taken by a swarm of worms, and we find out that no other than one of our favorite Eye of Michael members, Sazi the Beast, took Marrow and Roberto, and we find out, he tells them straight up, they're on July, the crashed plant carrier ship July. And if you've been looking at the map every time they take a break in between scenes of the show, you can see to where they're at, and where July at is pretty much a great distance. But basically Sazi could teleport, so that's why he has them there already. So it's going to take Wolfwood and Vash a while to get there, but they will get there eventually. Sazi wants to find out for himself whether the worms should side with the humans or the plants. Now, once again, if you haven't read the manga, I'm heavily suggesting that you read the manga, because this right here, the scene at the end of episode 9, this is taken straight from the manga. When Sazi wants to find out for himself whether he should side, whether the worms should side on with the humans or the plants, that is taken straight from the manga. So if you want to learn more about that, I'm not going to ruin it for you. Just take my advice and read it. So Sazi wants to find out for himself whether he should side with the humans or the plants. And Roberto at first is subjective to what's going on, so he fires a shot at Sazi. But of course, we know that doesn't no good, and he explains to Roberto why this is no good, because the body that they see is just a conduit of the complete consciousness of all the worms on the planet. So even if he destroys those group of worms, they could just reform Sazi all over again. So they're speaking, and then no other than our favorite mad scientist, William, shows up. Now, we see Vash and Wolfwood are racing to go see Meryl and Roberto, and it's speculated that they found out about it and they've been traveling for some time, because remember, it was daytime while they were on the ship. And then when we see Wolfwood and Vash riding, it's nighttime. So they've already left, and you can see they've already shown the passage of time. So what say why they're traveling to July to save Roberto and Meryl. Sazi will tell Meryl and Roberto why Knives has collected all the red plants from the entire planet of No Man's Land. In exchange, Sazi wants to know who will benefit the planet the most, either humans or plants. And it cuts right there. Now, one other thing that I want to bring out with this episode is another specific thing that Sazi did. When William interrupts them and says they have no business knowing what Knives want the plants for, Sazi tells William right away, I don't take orders from you. Knives invited me here as a guest. So telling you once again, straight from the manga. So if you want to learn more about that and that character and everything else that's going on, you want a sneak peek about where they're taking the series, and you can see how they're connecting the dots, you have to read the manga. Now, this episode was good. We got a bunch of time skips, and we got more of the story to what's happening. Now, this is good. Now, they're either going to be at... Now, I will take a stab at this. I think Vash and Wolfwood will make it to July either by the mid or the end of this episode. They'll make it to July. And then after episode, that's going to be episode 10. And then on 11, and during episode 11, that's when things are really going to start get interesting. And we could see the destruction of July, and it's going to dial it up. It's really going to be good. I think you're really going to like what's going to happen in the next couple of episodes. You want to find out what's happening, you got to read the manga. But I am interested to see how they do it as far as playing it out and showing it to us in an anime format. Because it's one thing to see it from panel on a manga, and it's another thing to see it playing out, seeing it playing out to you 60 frames per second when you're watching the anime. But I think they're going to do a good job. Like, so far, so good. It started off kind of rough, but now that I look at it and now that I even watched it again, I think that was done on purpose, you know, to get everybody all shaken up. But overall, the episode was good. Nice pacing on it. The time skips were very revealing, and you could tell when the time skip happened. There was no confusion in between the time skips. You got some more answers as far as the origin of Vash's arm, how he lost his arm, what was the gate, what Knives was referring to in the second episode. That was answered in episode 9, this one. And I would say it again. I think Vash is going to release that gate again, and it's going to be a little bit more controlled. And it's going to be pandemonium, and I can't wait to see it, because I know they're still following the manga, but at the same time, it's like they're making certain deviations while they're following the manga to make it more appealing to the eye and it's good. I like it. Everything is proceeding as planned. I'm really enjoying the series. Tell me what you think about this so far. Like, share, and subscribe if you feel like it. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for tuning in, everybody.